Either, Mr. Tryon.
Can I make just
Okay.
one other short comment? I want to address the idea of that people don't like each other and they try and push their personal agendas. I will say this: I've been on this board for almost 2 years, and I have had lunch with every one of these board members on a one-on-one basis. I've had meetings with one of them one-on-one basis. I claim each and every one of them as being a personal friend. We may disagree on our views on certain items here, but once the vote is taken and the gavel goes down, I can't speak for the rest of them, how they are, but to me, they're still my friends. And we can have conversations about it or what have you, but I don't look at them in any different personal light of I don't care for you, I'm mad at you, I have a personal agenda to get rid of you, or so forth, or anything like that. I enjoy working with these people. I think every one of them brings something different to the board. Like I say, we may have our disagreements, but I've competed in the jamboree with Marita, and a lot of times we disagree on our votes. I'm having lunch with her on Friday before a meeting in Ebbets Pass. I've had private one-on-one conversation on a disagreement with Steve and I had, but when we walked away, we still have lunch. We're still friends. I've had lunch with Tom. I work with Russ because our districts overlap extensively, and that's, I think, what a democracy is all about, and as a whole, as a community like Calaveras County. You may not agree with me, and you may not agree with them, but in the end, we're all in this thing together, and if we all look at it that way, I think we can get through a lot of these tough issues. You may not, like I said to a committee that I had that was formed for a community plan, you're not going to get everything that you want, but if you work, you can get some of it, or a portion of it that you want, and then that's a personal victory for everybody involved. So I just wanted to say that because a lot of the things that were said today, and maybe a lot of the persona that people have out there, what's happening. I can't speak about the past because I was not involved a few years ago on this board. I can only speak of the times that I have here. The last 2 years at times we've all worked together to get one common goal, and at other times we disagree. And I just want to say that I appreciate working with everybody on this board.
I would like to ask one question of Jeannie, because Jeannie was intimately involved in the preparation of this document, met with the city administrator and I think their respective staffs. Do you support the agreement? Do you have a recommendation on it?
Well, I do. I think we need the revision to the JPA because of the discourse that we're seeing here today. And I think there's always room for improvements and for changes, and I think we've heard a lot of comments today that we can take back, and I think some of them can easily be changed. I don't think, the dissolution, the 90 days, 6 months, and there's some things I think that we can change that everybody will be happy with.
They're not substantive in my opinion.
I think I do. I think you should vote and approve this JPA revision, and that's my recommendation.
When we've been in situations like this before, we've polled on certain aspects of it, and I think that's an appropriate thing to do here.
Madam Chair. Just a second, Jeannie, do you have anything else you wanted to say?
When you talk about polling, that's what I was going to say. I saw, I think, 3 votes for 223 on the membership.
Steve?
I have 10 things I heard, and I'd like to see whether we have agreement on these things so that we could instruct staff. Let me read them all and then see if there's any I'm leaving out or some that are in that shouldn't be. but we have a decision to make, and there's conflict about, and I'm not talking about all the things that have come up. Let me first separate. The one thing that came up is, should we have both documents or the JPA and have the operational thing separated from it? So that's one threshold decision. The second one is the question of public members, 1 or 3. A third is the term of service for them, 1 or 2 years. A third is whether there's an administrative committee or not. Fourth is who's responsible for the organizational procedures manual. I guess I just described that earlier. Fifth is Brown Act for TAC or some hybrid, where some of it is open and some of it is not. Sixth is the transition to LTA and what the process, LTC, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. It's an LTC.
Hopefully we never go there.
Okay, hopefully we
Not
don't,
much of a
but
change if we do.
what's in it and how do we do it? Seventh is dissolution, 30 days or 6 months. 8 that came up as reserves, although I don't think we necessarily have to get into that. That's operational in my
You
view.
don't need to get into it. Break that one off.
9th is transparency in financial reporting and grant expenditures, and what's our pleasure on that. And I guess, again, the threshold thing is, do we complete this today, or do we give it to a working committee to work these and other things out as submitted by Marita in her opening statement? So those are, to me, the first thing is, do we work it out today,
And we can give
or do
something
we...
to the city, and if they amend it, it'll come back to us, so.
All right, but I think if we were to poll on these, we'd at least find out where we were in each of these subsections and then have some idea whether we can do it today or not.
I support that.
It would be helpful to staff to have you pull.
I don't mind that, but I have some other issues that
Many.
I would like to make changes to, some of which I've written, I've given to Mr.
Yeah.
Garcia and to you, but, there's others, just some sort of mechanical things. I'm not ready to approve this even with the polling, but if we're doing it based on, we want to give some feedback to the city council for tonight, I don't have a problem with that. So, do you want,
What we need are 3 votes, 4 votes.
Yes.
If we can't get 5, we can't get 5. That's no reason not to.
for what? To poll? What's what we're going to do?
But if you're not going to vote for the final document.
Not today.
you need
I am
3
not,
votes.
I am not voting
One
for
way or
the
the
final
other. You vote it up, you vote
document
it down.
today.
Okay, but what if 3 other people do?
Well,
Want to?
then they do.
Okay.
But
Well,
I
let's
think
poll.
that
The question is whether to go on the specifics that could provide staff instruction or the composition of a final document, and we won't know that till we go through the other 9 or 20.
Stay what it is.
And the final one would be, do we complete today and have a motion, or do we need to instruct staff to implement these things and also ask the city to consider our majority views on each of the subjects? Does that make...
Well, let's do the polling first, and then we'll see where we go.
go ahead, take us down the list.
The first one is public members. Is it the existing 3, or do we go to 1?
Pardon me, your first one was the JPA, Operations and Procedures Manual?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
You kind of had...
Yeah, I
One
actually
and
covered it
four,
twice.
yeah, right.
Why don't we do that as the first one? Should we separate the operations and procedures discussion as an administrative function of the COG with input from, obviously Marita's done a tremendous amount of thinking on that, so she's on the COG board, but I would assume that they'd have some internal process to deal with it. Should it be internal to COG, or should we weigh in on it?
What I would like to see is the COG, the city and the county working together on the operations and procedures now. It's an operating document for an agency, but I would like them to be working together
But
on
Marita,
that
that's
document.
what's in front of us. They have been working together.
No, they haven't, Tom.
And
She's including the
quite frankly, you have to
You
have
know
a
what?
document to start with. So why don't we start with this one? They can amend
No.
it.
Sorry.
Let's see where 3 votes are on the
exactly.
question of whether to separate this out from today's proceeding or not. Okay, let's start with
Okay,
that
go
and see
ahead.
where the
Just-
votes are.
The question is, separate it out. Tom?
No.
Marita's a yes.
No.
Russ?
I'm a yes.
What we're seeing here today is consolidated, right?
We've got both of the documents in front of us, but they're two different.
Yeah, I would be, I want to say that they should be separated.
Okay, that's three for that.
And since as the chair, I'm supposed to do the split votes, we can take me last. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The second one is the public members, should we stay with the existing three or move to the recommended in the document one?
I brought up another option.
Okay.
That it was 2-2 and a rotating elected from city and county.
Okay, why don't we do all three?
I prefer
But I don't
that,
care.
quite frankly. I would prefer that to having
Any public member.
three, because you can't have two county members or two city members be totally outvoted, or you will lose the JPA, the Joint Powers Agreement.
We haven't yet.
Well, it wouldn't take very much of that on a controversial issue, and you'd lose it in the blink of an eye.
Okay.
And why build that
Steve, do
into
you want to
it?
form the question, please?
Okay.
Well, I see three, now, there seem to be three different things going on, but I had, under the dialogue that we had in this room and with the input from the public, it seemed the two main...
I would support rotating between the city and the county,
All right.
and pick a term 2 years or something.
Okay.
Can't go on too
Russ?
long, that's fine.
I
Well, you can amend
like the
tonight.
structure that as we currently have it, 2, 2, and 3.
Gary?
Well, you brought this up, so, Tom, you're voting to go with what she brought up?
No, I'm voting with what Marita...
Brought up.
I would rather go with 2, 2, and 1. That's what the city council
Right.
requested, and I have no problem with that.
And that's in the
That's my preference.
That's
I'm not sure
If we
they're going to
can't-
run into problems
if the-
with
if
a
the- if the question
rotating.
is, are we going to go with 2, 2, and 3, where the city or the county can be totally voted out? I'm not for that.
I'll go with the current structure.
Current structure.
But then you get one party that can be totally voted out.
Current structure.
It could happen with this scenario, too.
I'll
That
vote
was 2, 2, and
mine
1.
with an
Yes, it
editorial
can.
comment that
You get
if
three
the
county
parties
members.
behave themselves and work together, they'll never be in that situation. And until those relationships work on the mission of the place, and with that understanding that staying back from the threshold of destruction of the JPA requires some moderation of opinion once in a while, then we, of course, will break up. But I'm for the existing process. I would hope that as part of policies and procedures that people will figure out how to hone this to get the best possible people with the skill sets required to do this well.
Okay, could you move on?
Next one is term of service, 1 or 2 years for those public members.
Russ?
2 years.
Gary?
Well, I'm not, I think the structure of it should be that they're appointed for a 1-year term they can be extended. It's not terming out. I think if they're doing a good job, they could be there 3 years, 4 years, whatever, if that board decides that they're doing that good a job. So that's the structure I would like to see for it.
Steve?
I'm for 2.
I'm for 1.
2. And the next item?
There are 3 for 2?
Yes. Brown Act requirements for the TAC.
Pardon me?
Brown Act.
Was it
Executive management?
Yeah, administrative committee?
Oh, I'm
better
sorry.
go in
Yeah,
line.
all right, I'll do it the way I originally had it. Administrative committee, whether...
Executive management.
Executive
whatever it's
management committee, whether it's created or not.
And that committee's made up of the COG chair, the vice chair, the COG executive director, and the city administrator, and the CAO. And I believe there's an administrative committee now, Tim, is there? There is one now, yeah. It just adds a couple members to it.
It adds...
called.
So it's not a totally new committee.
Well,
It
it
adds the
is.
city manager and the
The
CAO.
CAO to that committee.
It is a very, very limited use of the administrative committee
But you're
in
correct.
relation to what
Right.
this is asking
Yes,
the
this is
executive
asking for more.
management committee to do.
Maybe there are 2 issues here. One is the composition, and the other is the role and responsibility of it, which I think that's what you're talking about. The role has expanded under this proposal.
Substantially.
I won't call it substantially. It's a
Substantially.
recommendation to the COG board.
No,
So, right.
substantially. When was the last time the administrative committee met in the COG? It was almost 2 years ago. One, because you didn't like it.
I would ask to separate the 2 issues so that we can decide.
So why don't we poll on what's in the document
What's in the
first?
documents, it's the management.
Okay, go ahead. Start with Gary this time.
I'm for what's in the document.
I want to ask Jeannie about this. Jeannie, are you supporting what's in the document
Yes,
on
I
this
am.
on this specific issue? So, okay, I'll vote for what's in the document.
Tom?
Yes.
No.
No.
3-2.
Okay, the next one is Brown Act for TAC. That would be a required posting and public presence in the TAC meetings.
You sure you want that? I mean, it seems to me staff needs to be able to have some frank communications and trade-offs and stuff. I mean,
What is done,
the public meeting, yes,
what is done
obviously.
at a staff level can still be done at a staff level. But when decisions are made and projects are considered for funding or proposed for funding.
Okay, so you'll still meet as staff outside of that process.
But Tom, you come to the boards anyway, or the city council. Why does it have to be redundant?
Indeed, what I do is I come to the board approves a list of projects, the city council, they approve a list of projects, I would assume. That comes to the TAC. How those two project lists are melded, in addition to now the COG coming forward with its own independent projects. There's 3 lists of projects. How all those lists are either funded or not funded, how those are melded, should be an open public process.
But they come to the COG, which is an open process.
They do not come to the COG. What comes to the COG is the list of approved projects. You miss all of the projects that were submitted by the jurisdictions that were not considered for funding.
Okay, as I said in my comments on this, it seems to me we have 2 things going.
You're recommending
One is that there are meetings that determine the priorities, where we're trying to, there's submittals, and people are kind of ranking them for a recommendation. I recommended that those all be public. I think it's critical, and it's an important phase for public participation. The second thing is that the TAC apparently meets from time to time on technical issues where, is that not the case?
No, we should not be meeting on technical issues. That can be done at the staff level. The TAC's function here is to prepare for the next board meeting so that there are no surprises at the COG board. All of the members of the jurisdictions have met, have agreed on the agenda, have developed the agenda for the COG board, know what's going to be presented. And that's also open to the public. So we don't have items going before the COG board that haven't been discussed already by city and county staff that we can weigh in and educate our elected officials to.
All right. So Brown Act for TAC or not?
You recommend yes? Jeannie, what do
I
you
recommend
recommend?
yes.
Okay, both staff recommend yes. I'll go with staff's recommendation.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Another bureaucracy in action.
Transition to LTC.
Wait a minute, I got to go. Who pays for this then?
I don't think you
Who pays for
Okay,
that?
that's just
dissolved.
For is the COG paying for the publishing and the, all that?
One would assume that the cost to post an agenda on a website and to post an agenda in public circulation, that would be minimal compared to the benefit you would get by opening this process up to the public.
That's not the question, though, Mr. Garcia.
Right
This
now,
is
we pay the
paying-
COGS overhead as it is, through LTC, through TDA, through their overhead costs to all the projects. So that would be another cost that's absorbed by the COG and by the county and by the city.
Next item.
Right, next item, I had mentioned the transition to LTC, but I think that that's kind of a moot point because that's governed by law, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of districts.
Tom, Steve's talking.
So I would suggest that we move to dissolution, which had 2 proposals. One was the 30 days that were in this proposal, and I had mentioned 6 months, Gary had mentioned 6 months, so I'd suggest a poll between those 2.
Well, once you do 90 days, why don't you split the difference? The longer you leave it out there, the more things fester and don't get resolved, in my opinion. Deadlines matter. Deadlines matter. Look at the state budget. If the damn controller would quit paying bills.
Okay, Tom, that's not on the
budget.
I believe the chair has responsibility for determining what she wishes to poll, but I heard those two things.
Okay,
in the course of
Tom?
discussion.
I would prefer 90 days.
Steve,
6 months.
Gary,
I'm for 6 months, I think.
Russ,
6 months.
6 months.
Okay, did we want to poll on the question of reserves? It's really a policy issue that's internal. Okay. There was a second, there was an issue of transparency and financial reporting and grant expenditures. There was some discussion of
I
making
think
that a
that's an
requirement.
operational issue and discussion.
The county does the projects, the
That's not-
county will be doing
All
the
right.
accounting.
All right, suffice it to say that I would like to see all things accounted for and publicly accomplished, no matter who's doing
It should.
it.
I think under grants you have to. You're supposed to.
You're supposed to.
That's correct. All right, and the final thing in that list, and Marita has a number of other things, is do we complete this today with amendments, or do we submit it with these instructions to staff to try to work together and get a final document? And I think that's a fundamental kind of threshold to cross here. We're doing one or the other.
I'd like to take an action, so the city council has something to act on. That's what I'd like to do. And I would just do it in a way that incorporates the majority on the issues that were pulled.
Who's next?
Well, again, it's like the agreement shall continue in force for a term of 5 years. Why is that on there if it can be changed at any time? And the fact that we're throwing staff
Take it
out.
out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Poll to
There's
take it out.
things- No, because there's other things in here
Yeah, there's a
that I
bunch.
would like, I've commented on some, and I would like to be considered in the JPA. We just talked about a few of them, and that's why at least we've given some direction on some key components to the JPA agreement for the city council to consider.
Well, why don't we try a motion and see if it passes on the changes that we just polled upon, and whether we can get 3 votes to agree to this document with those changes.
The ones that had majority
The
votes.
one that we just had majority votes on.
Okay?
And you're
Make a motion.
suggesting an up or down vote that would incorporate all the rest of the document with those changes?
Yes.
You going to make a motion?
He just did.
Oh, you
I just did.
Are you going to second it, Tom? Are you going to
I
second?
don't know. I think Russ is going to jump in and beat me.
No.
Well, just on a point of order, does it make any difference to the city whether this is sent to them as a draft or something?
I think it'd be good after all this talking and all these meetings to at least get it down to what the issues are. I mean, I think the city, from what I understand, and David can jump up and say, oh, no, you're wrong, Tom, but my understanding is the city, the 2 members I met with were going to recommend that the city council approve this document as presented. So, I mean, otherwise, we're just going to be going back and forth for a long time. At least this constrains it to what differences might be. And they may incorporate them and say, no, we don't want to do these 2. We either want to do what the document says or we want some other resolution. And at least then at least we've confined it to what the issues are. So I'll second Gary's motion.
Any further comments by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No.
I'm an aye on that.
Okay, it goes to the city council tonight. David, thank you.
They did the 3 public members. No, we did the thing with the rotating between.
And so before my board sees any of this,
So it won't be tonight then, because,
because I want to make sure that I don't misrepresent the board that's been approved or anything of that nature.
Okay.
So I want to make sure I've got.
so
Well,
that
and
means
then
that
we're
we're
gonna-
throwing
You
the
can take the
code
video
staff
with you if
out
you-
with the bathroom.
Russ, you want a 2-week continuance or 1 week of this?
When does the
We just
city
voted
council
3 to
meet
2.
again? They meet tonight,
Oh,
David. When
No,
do-
we're
Then why don't we direct staff to reschedule this? When do you think you would be meeting with the council, David?
We'll meet the first and third Tuesdays. So our next meeting would be the first meeting of October would be October what?
And I would hope that we'd find a way to have all the editing and work that Marita did
Is that 2 weeks?
as part of a consideration as we try to perfect this document.
Well, why don't we instruct staff to schedule this 2 weeks, which is when the...
No, why don't we schedule it in 3 weeks until after they've had, now we're sending this document to them, let them scrutinize it on October 5th, and it can back to us on the following
My
Tuesday.
thought would be is we'd schedule it for 2 weeks, and they schedule it for 2 weeks, and our staff and their staff, because they can talk to their board tomorrow and get authorization to negotiate with our staff.
meeting
Then we
tonight.
can
They
have
meet
it resolved
tonight,
in 2
Tom.
weeks by vote.
Tom, their board meets tonight.
Yeah, so
You said
David
tomorrow.
can hopefully get authorization from the board to appoint a couple of people or whatever to work with them and see if they can resolve the issue before it comes before a full board meeting, full council meeting.
We've
You've
adopted this
it, Tom. There
document.
is no changes.
We've adopted
Well,
it.
if they get back, if we schedule it for 2 weeks, and they get back and say, okay, we want a
Then
couple
we need
changes.
to have it on October 12th on our,
Yeah,
why
later,
not
we
do
need
it on the
another week.
5th?
It's too...
because they
it's too-
won't meet until October 5th,
Right.
that night.
But they can have staff talking to our staff. I mean, that's what's going to happen. Their staff's going to talk to our staff on these issues.
We can't bring it back on the 5th. If they're talking about it on the 5th,
okay.
no.
Wanna do it?
Yeah, no, that's not going to
That
work.
long, we'll go that long.
Yeah.
October 12th.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else, Mr. Garcia?
Approve the change.
We understand the direction of the board. We'll make the changes to the document. We'll work with the city to identify those changes. I
I will, Tom.
would request clarification from Director Hanham.
Yes.
Is the city, the action from the city tonight will be an information item then?
Are you going? We have to get some information in. Are you going? I would like to strike out in addition to what's in this document. There has been any of that,
Where might show up?
I'm sorry, Mr. Lawrence. Whatever relationship, I want to see a cross out strike out of what you guys approved today, so that's our board has firm understanding of what you're putting.
We can provide that, but given the hour, I don't think that's going to be available for
Not
their
like
meeting
tonight.
tonight.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Which means we'd be have it available for their next.
Why don't you just write it on a piece of paper, you can at least talk to the council about it, and then fax him something tomorrow.
We can email our Director Hanham our minutes and identify the changes that were made.
Right.
So he can highlight that. to his
You can
board.
talk to his council tonight.
We won't have a strikeout.
Okay, and then you can email him a more complete document tomorrow.
So the direction from the board is to have the count, to have us come back in 3 weeks.
Hold on, yeah, 'cause we're confused.
Okay, just a moment, Mr. Fry, I'll be right with you.
So the direction from the board is to return in 3 weeks
Yes.
with an amended document with comments from the city.
And
Am I
Marita.
understanding that?
Well, I mean, we want to
again, it's
schedule
my-
it. It's the
it's my-
same adopted it as we've approved it today. Obviously, it would be dropped from the agenda.
With
If
the
it doesn't,
changes-
then we have an agenda item to discuss it under.
Just a moment. Could you please come up here? Thank you.
We're getting,
And please give your name and rank.
yeah.
David Hannum, Director of Planning and Building for the City of Angels. Based on the action that you've taken tonight, I want to make sure that our board understands what you've done. So for them to approve the document with changes, we would have to have all the changes, what you did to make, if that was going to happen. There's no way that I'm going to go into a board with a list on a piece of paper saying, well, I wasn't sure what I heard, but I want to make sure that I understand what the board did in terms of that. I mean, I've got some of what you did, but some of it, you guys were moving pretty quickly, and I don't have. So I want to make sure that I will tell the council what your board action was, and whatever they do with the document at that point, that'll be their decision. But I want to make sure that I have an accurate depiction of what you've done. So
Okay.
that's all I'm asking.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr.
So
Garcia.
tonight you're going to be getting a synopsis of what happened at our board meeting.
Yes.
We can provide you with the list of items that were changed, not for action, for information. And then we can provide you with an amended document at your board meeting. Is that on the 12th?
On the 5th.
On the 5th.
But he's going to need it before that.
Yeah, I'll be needing it the week before.
Yeah, he'll need it for a week so they can study it.
Okay.
So we can work out the dates, but I'll need it, was it the first week of October, which would be...
The 5th.
Actually, be the last week of September. I would need it by the 28th of September.
We can provide it.
Okay, thank you. Just a
Thanks,
minute.
Dave.
Mr. Fry, you had a
Thanks for hanging.
clarification?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to make sure that...
Could you please come up? Thank you, you're on record.
Yes, ma'am.
No, George, you're still an alternate.
No, that's not the question. The question is the city and the county and the COG executive director, are they going to meet and confer? That's the question.
On the operations and
Yes,
procedures manual.
And on what has transpired in your vote. I heard
That's not what-
Supervisor Walensky say that he wanted all three of the parties involved, but I wasn't sure whether that transpired or not.
What transpired was that we separated out the operations and procedures for that specific process, and that the other aspect...
You're a ventriloquist.
The other aspect was just voted upon and is proceeding apace. I did have one question myself on procedure. Marita had raised a number of issues that include some weaknesses in this document and apparent contradictions, and it seems to me it makes sense for those to be part of the work of the finish-up work of the working group. I would hope that those specific suggestions get incorporated into that review, and would ask whether the board is comfortable with that.
I'm more than happy to put them in writing.
Well, then I've got
by
a
section.
16-page list of things I want too.
Well,
But that's not what we voted on. We just voted on what
We just voted on something.
what there was, and that wasn't in it.
All right.
So,
Well,
We'll just open it up, it'll never end.
Well, I'm telling you, you are throwing the staff of the COG out.
No, you're not.
Yes, you are, Tom. You read section 19, it throws the staff out. That is not who we should be. And there's some negative comments in here that I think should be taken out and it made positive. And the 24-hour notice to the COG director for an alternate. Sometimes that's a last-minute issue. I don't know why. That's in the JPA agreement. You know, and I happen to give Gary a month's notice on the next one, but it could also be a last-minute one. And so if I can't give the COG director 24 hours, does that mean we don't have the sitting alternate? That's what this says. There has to be a 24-hour. That the alternate for the citizen member may be members may be appointed by a majority vote of the member agencies. I think it should say sitting as the COG. Otherwise, you have that member person. First, you got to agendize it for the city council. Now you got to agendize it for the board of supervisors. Then you agendize it for the council of governments. I mean, like this person, like, who cares? The council of governments, that's who they're sitting on. They're the board. The council should be appointing, like the current JPA says, the sitting members. I mean, there's things like that in here that I think need to be changed. Those are minor things. So I'm going to write them up. I'm going to give them to the city. I'll give them to staff. I'll give them to the Board of Supervisors. If you choose to include them in the JPA, I'm not even going to touch the Organization Procedures Manual. If you want to change it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. We can pull the board, but I think there's things in here that procedurally should be changed.
I think there's probably some things we can change that are
But to
substantive.
say, well, let's approve it and then we can do it later, I mean, what's the hurry? Let's do it now. Okay, if there's no other comments, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. The board needs to finish their agenda. We have to do board comments, and I want it quickly. I don't want you all going on.
Marina's back.
I want to go to items before the board. Tom, do you have any items you'd like to discuss? Okay. Steve?
Well, I was going to the Delta meeting, but their public comment just finished, or will be done by the time I get down, so I guess that's off. I have Motherlode job training meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock in Sonora. I will be going to the Basque barbecue in Paloma on Saturday at the Garamendi's. And I have Moke Hill in a town hall meeting on Monday the 27th.
Okay, Mr. Tuffanelli?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am going to try to attend the juvenile justice meeting tomorrow at 5 p.m.
On Thursday.
Excuse me, on Thursday, you're right. I'm an alternate, but I thought I would drop in and I have some questions to be asked there. I'm also going to be at Ebbets Pass Fire Station at 1:30 p.m. on Friday for an EMS meeting, like a tactical meeting on what the state legislation is proposing that I spoke of a couple weeks ago. And I see here I am scheduled to be at the Concourse d'Elegance at Ironstone at 5:30 on Saturday evening. That concludes my week.
Mr. Thomas?
Okay, on Thursday, I'll be going to the 1226 intersection improvement workshop in Valley Springs Elementary. You're not going to go?
Yes, I will be there.
Okay.
So there goes juvenile justice.
That meeting, of course, takes place at the Valley Springs Elementary School. Multi-purpose rooms 6 to 7 is the open house, 7 to 8 is a presentation. So if you're interested in what's happening, the latest proposal for solving the traffic congestion at the intersection of 12 and 26, that will be discussed that evening. On Wednesday night, I'm conducting a town hall meeting at the Armory in Copperopolis. That'll go from 5:30 to 7. And then I'm also doing a town hall meeting at the Rancho Clubhouse from 6 to 8 on Friday the 24th. And on the 25th, that used to be like a county holiday, the opening of deer season. What happened? So I'll be observing the former county holiday of opening day of deer season.
Randy Metzger retired, so that's...
That's right. And that concludes my report.
Tonight, Karen Varney's meeting with me on an interesting item regarding a polling location that is non-ADA accessible, and we're going to be meeting with the homeowners board tonight at 7. I have Fish and Game Commission, Juvenile Justice Commission. I'll be with Gary at Ebbets Pass Fire District on Friday, and I will be at the Basque Barbecue on Saturday, and the Arnold Rim Trail and Mark Twain Hospital on Saturday morning. And Ebbets Pass Scenic Byway Monday night. I have, which I already mentioned, but the Central Sierra Child Support, we now have a new JPA agreement with all 4, Alpine, Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne approving it. That was bringing Tuolumne into the fold. And we had before us also an employee relations policy for Central Sierra Child Support Agency. I have to say Steve was very instrumental in getting us through that, And this is the kind of thing he's talking about, where we have delete, add, changes, comments. It was much easier to understand and follow it than what we have before us, and I think that's what he's referring to. Also,
And can we make
I made a note of that.
Can we make it a policy that all departments will sort of do that format when there are large policy things?
I made a
before us?
note, I'll talk to the department heads about that.
Also, tomorrow, there is a phone interview with Michael Blake, the Deputy Associate Director for Intergovernmental Affairs in the White House, and I can't make it, and I didn't know if, I did tell RCRC and CSAC that maybe a Board of Supervisor from this county might like to participate. If you do, let me know. I have some of the information on it. You got that?
I got the email, yeah.
Yeah.
What time is this?
It's at Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tomorrow. And that's just how things work when you deal with the federal government.
Awful sudden.
If you want to participate, I have another commitment tomorrow morning. Ms. Boyce?
Just to let you know that today's the 83rd day without a state budget, but rumors have it that negotiations are picking up steam.
Even though the governor's sick?
Even though the governor's sick.
Maybe because.
But I just thought I'd give you that little tidbit, that's it. for
And
today.
on the 23rd of this month, it'll pass it, or the 24th, right?
Yeah, maybe he doesn't want that distinction.
Okay, Mr. Jones?
I have nothing for the board.
Okay, thank you. The Board of Supervisors meeting is adjourned, and we will go into close changes in